We're hearing from a grieving father of a Meriwether County teen who was killed just after attending prom over the weekend.
His father tells 11 Alive he wants the public's help bringing the people responsible into custody. 11 Alive's Karis Belger spoke with that father in Manchester.
This is the last memory Qatarsman Bryant says he has of his 16-year-old son, Daryus. The photo was taken just hours before the teen left for prom in Columbus. He never made it home.
It was supposed to be unforgettable, but not like this. April 20th, 2024, Columbus, Georgia. A quiet southern city known for its riverfront charm, hometown pride, and high school football. But that night, what should have been a celebration turned into a funeral countdown. Daryus Bryant had just left prom. The music was still ringing in his ears. His tie was slightly loosened. He looked fresh, proud, dressed in his best, laughing with friends. He wasn't even planning to go. It was a last-minute decision. But when he finally said yes, no one knew it would be the last thing he ever said yes to. Daryus wasn't just another high school kid. At just 16, he was already something of a legend in Manchester, Georgia. A star athlete, football, basketball, track. He was a two-time regional high jump champion, a natural leader. Georgia State had already extended an offer. Other colleges were circling. He had a future, one he'd earned through sweat, training, and quiet discipline. Coaches respected him. Teammates looked up to him. Teachers said he was humble, focused, different. He was supposed to turn 17 in 7 days. Just after midnight, Daryus and a friend were driving along Lakeshore Road. Prom had ended. It was time to head home, but as they approached the intersection of Lakeshore and Crystal Drive, headlights appeared beside them, fast, uninvited, and wrong. 2 cars, 2 shooters, 1 ambush. Gunfire tore through the night, shattering more than windows. Bullets struck both cars. When police arrived, they found 2 teens bleeding inside separate vehicles. One of them was Daryus. He was still breathing, but not for long. At Piedmont Columbus Regional Hospital, doctors tried. They always try. But at 12:53 a.m., the monitors went silent. Daryus Bryant, a boy full of promise and plans, was gone. The second victim, Clarence Favors, survived after emergency surgery, but everything had changed. The news ripped through the community like thunder. A mother screamed in disbelief. A father sat in silence. Students cried in corners of locker rooms. At Manchester High School, the same field Daryus once sprinted across now felt cold and still. His father, Qatarsman Bryant, is the team's defensive coordinator, a coach, a mentor, a man who'd always believed in structure, in hard work, in raising boys to become good men. Now he was planning a funeral for his own son. Qatarsman spoke with heartbreak that bled through every word. He said Daryus wasn't a street kid. He didn't party, didn't carry guns, didn't chase trouble. This wasn't a thug taken in some corner shootout, he said. This was my son, a scholar, an athlete, a homebody. He remembered how Daryus had just won regionals again for high jump, how Duke sent a framed picture of him in their jersey, how he used to watch his son sleep after late practices, peaceful, unaware of how far he was about to go in life. Then he paused and offered $20,000 out of his own pocket for any information. This can't be how it ends, he said. Somebody knows something. His voice shook when he asked where the fathers were. Where are we, he said. When did we stop raising these kids? When did it become normal for them to wave guns on camera and shoot into cars without caring who's inside? A few days later, Leverett Hill Baptist Church could barely hold the crowd. There was no music loud enough to drown the sobbing, no sermon long enough to explain the hole left behind. His casket was closed, his jersey draped on top. Students from all 3 sports teams came in full uniform. They didn't cheer. They cried. Daryus's teammates called the funeral his 4th quarter. They stood up, one after another, sharing stories, laughing through tears. Some couldn't finish their sentences. One said, "He always gave us his best." Now we'll carry the rest. There is no justice yet. Columbus police have leads. Investigators believe it was targeted, but no arrests have been made, and the questions remain unanswered. Why him? Why now? Was it jealousy? Was it planned? No answers. Just echoes of what could have been. Today, his family continues to build the DB2 Foundation, meant to honor his name, help other kids rise, and push against the cycle that stole him. His father hasn't stopped coaching. Daryus would want me to stay with the boys, he says, and that's what I'm going to do. But not one day goes by that I don't feel like I failed him by not being there. This is more than a story about a boy who died. It's a reminder of how easily the future can be stolen, how silence after violence is never the answer, and how every community has a choice: look away or speak up. Daryus Bryant should have been 17. Instead, he became a name on a headstone and a legacy that refuses to fade. Before we begin, ask yourself, what would you do if your child never made it home from prom? And if real stories like this matter to you, hit subscribe, like, and share this video, because silence helps no one.
But the good thing is, nothing good about this story. Yeah, we have to be very careful with our children in the environments. I know this father is devastated by the loss of his son, especially at coming home from prom night. They just took a picture together. His 17th birthday was just this weekend. And your son has been shot and killed. You don't even know why. I can tell you why: jealousy, envy, anger. The black community, we have to be understanding something about all these shootings. There's a lot of jealousy and envy in the black community towards each other. And if somebody else sees you doing well and having a great time, them niggas would do anything in their power to destroy your happiness. I've seen it in my own life. I kind of say Niggerville is a fictional place, but Niggerville does exist in a lot of people's heads, and you might not even be able to run from it. The jealousy, the anger, the envy. This kid couldn't have been hurt anybody at 16 years of age.
He was born on April 27, 2007, in Georgia. A baby boy with calm eyes and strong hands. His parents named him Daryus, but most people called him DB. He was the kind of child who didn't need to talk much to be noticed. He moved through the world with a quiet energy, the kind that drew people in without even trying. Daryus grew up in a home where love was normal and structure was firm. His father, Daryus Bryant, coached football and taught boys how to carry themselves with purpose. His mother kept the home steady, and the church shaped their values. They were a close-knit family, steady, protective, proud. Daryus was the youngest of three. He didn't hang out in the streets. He didn't chase parties. Most nights he stayed home, studying, training, or relaxing in his room with music and video games. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, he let his work speak. And when it did, people listened. On the field, he was electric. In the weight room, he was focused. And in competition, he was fearless. Football came naturally to him. As a quarterback and a cornerback, he read plays like a veteran. He ran with precision. He tackled hard. His father was on the sidelines, coaching him not just for game day, but for life. Basketball gave him grace. He could jump like gravity forgot to apply. His teammates called him a machine. In track and field, he soared. Daryus Bryant didn't just compete in the high jump, he dominated it. He was a two-time Region 6 champion. His form was crisp. His landings were silent. He broke records and barely celebrated. He would nod, thank his coach, and start preparing for the next meet. College recruiters started calling. Georgia State wanted him. Georgia Southern made their offer. The University of South Florida showed interest. Even Duke, the kind of school kids dream about, sent scouts and encouragement. One coach even gave the family a custom photo, Daryus in a Duke uniform, smiling. That photo sat in his house like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. He was only 16, and in those 16 years, he had already achieved what most boys only imagined. But if you asked him about it, he'd just shrug and say, "I'm just trying to stay focused." No ego, no entitlement, just quiet ambition. What made Daryus different wasn't just how he played, it was how he lived. He didn't look down on anyone. He helped younger teammates. He was the first to show up and the last to leave. His teachers said he was polite, thoughtful, respectful, a leader in every room. Even when he didn't speak, he didn't drink. He didn't smoke. He didn't chase trouble. He chased goals. At 5'10", with a lean build and serious eyes, Daryus moved like someone aware of his worth but never arrogant about it. He was that rare kind of teenager who could sit with his grandmother and talk about God, then step onto the field and tear through a defensive line like a man twice his age. Everyone knew Daryus Bryant was going somewhere. He had the talent. He had the discipline. He had the backing of a community that believed in him, but most of all, he had time, or so they thought. In just 7 days, he would have turned 17, but time for Daryus was running out, and no one saw it coming. It was a Friday evening in April. Daryus hadn't planned to go to prom. He wasn't into flashy events or big crowds. He preferred peace. But something changed that day. Maybe it was his friend's persuasion. Maybe it was the idea of one last moment before senior year swallowed everything. Whatever the reason, he said yes. And by nightfall, he was dressed sharp, smiling softly, standing next to friends in suits and sneakers, boys balancing between youth and manhood. Pictures were taken, jokes were shared. He stood tall in navy and white, his outfit crisp, his face calm. Somewhere, someone said he looked like a college player already. He grinned and adjusted his cuffs. This was his moment, and for once, he let himself enjoy it. The dance was at Carver High School in Columbus, about 45 minutes from home. The gym was dressed in lights and metallic streamers. Music bounced off the walls, phones flashed, laughter echoed across the floor. Daryus wasn't the loudest in the room. He never was. But he moved with confidence, dancing with classmates, dapping up friends, nodding to teachers. It was late when the event started winding down. Around 11:45 p.m., people began heading to their cars, still buzzing from the night. Daryus left with a group of friends, climbing into one of the cars parked nearby. They pulled onto the road. Daryus rode with his teammate, Clarence Favors. They were both athletes, both full of future. The streetlights flickered above them as they made their way down Lakeshore Road toward Crystal Drive. They didn't see it coming. A third vehicle, unknown, uninvited, approached from behind, then to the side. No one inside had a prom suit on. No one was there to celebrate. Without warning, gunshots shattered the quiet. A spray of bullets flew into the vehicle Daryus was in. Multiple rounds, direct, deliberate. Both cars, his and Clarence's, were hit. The glass exploded. The tires screeched. Blood mixed with fabric and confusion. Nearby residents called 911. Several heard the shots and thought it was fireworks at first. But then they saw the aftermath. Windows blown out, bodies slumped, taillights frozen in place. When officers arrived, they found 2 separate cars riddled with bullet holes. Inside them were 2 young boys, Daryus Bryant and Clarence Favors, both shot, both bleeding. Daryus was barely breathing. Emergency responders worked quickly. CPR, pressure to wounds. Flashing lights filled the dark street as Daryus was rushed to Piedmont Columbus Regional Hospital. They tried, but the damage was too much. At exactly 12:53 a.m. on April 20th, Daryus Bryant was pronounced dead. He had left prom less than an hour earlier. 7 days before his 17th birthday, his heart stopped under hospital lights. Clarence survived but was taken into immediate surgery. His condition was critical. His family waited in agony for updates as the night turned to morning and the nightmare refused to end. Back at the scene, bullet casings were scattered across the asphalt. Officers blocked off the intersection. The evidence told a story too painful to repeat. 2 teens had gone to prom. Only one would ever see sunrise again, and Daryus Bryant, a boy with a future mapped out, with medals earned, with dreams not yet spoken, was gone. The morning after Daryus was killed, the air in Manchester felt different. The sun still rose. Cars still passed by the high school, but something was gone, something loud in its absence. Word spread fast. By noon, there were candle posts on Facebook, old game clips being shared on Twitter, mothers calling mothers, teachers fighting back tears behind their desks. Daryus Bryant was dead. At Manchester High School, his desk sat empty, the chair untouched. Coaches cancelled practices. The principal called for emergency counselors. Students didn't talk about tests or grades that day. They talked about how it could have been any of them, how it shouldn't have been him. Cartersman Bryant, Daryus's father, didn't disappear into mourning. He couldn't. He was too angry, too broken, too responsible. Within days, he was speaking to local news stations, his voice trembling but firm. He wasn't just a grieving parent. He was a father demanding answers. This wasn't a gang member, he told the cameras. This wasn't some street kid living wild. This was a respectful, good boy. He didn't deserve this. And then came the plea. If anyone had information, any name, any whisper, he was offering $20,000 out of his own pocket. He wasn't waiting for the police. He wasn't waiting for time to fade the pain. He wanted justice now. His son's killers were still walking free, and that was unacceptable. Cartersman spoke not just as a father, but as a coach, a black man, a witness to how far things had fallen. He talked about the videos on social media, kids flashing guns, rapping about murder, filming fights like they were music videos. Where are the fathers? He asked. When did it become normal to lose your child and not even know who they were becoming? The Manchester community rallied. Churches opened their doors for vigils. Pastors wept in front of congregations. Teachers shared stories about Daryus's discipline and how he used to stay after class to help others. The school installed grief. Counselors for students who had never dealt with loss on this scale. At his viewing, the gym was packed wall to wall. Football teammates came in uniform. Track runners wore their cleats around their necks in tribute. The school chaplain stood at the front and said, Daryus was quiet, but when he moved, we all listened. His talent wasn't just seen, it was undeniable. Classmates hugged in silence. Some cried until they couldn't breathe. One student whispered to a teacher, he was supposed to be our hope. Outside, signs were taped to the school's fence. A DB2 forever. Run high, Daryus. You were our star. But behind the sorrow, a deeper truth rose. This wasn't just about one boy. This was about all the boys. The ones trying to stay out of trouble. The ones getting good grades. The ones chasing scholarships and helping their mums with groceries. The ones who should have been safe, but weren't. Daryus had done everything right. And yet, he still ended up a name on the news. His father, refusing to let that be the end, launched the DB2 Foundation in his son's name. Its goal was simple: help other youth avoid the same fate. Build mentorships, create scholarships, speak in schools, warn them early, before another parent has to stand in front of a camera and beg for help. The shooting wasn't just a tragedy. It was a wake-up call. The town heard it, the state heard it, and through the tears, the grief turned into a vow. Daryus Bryant wouldn't just be remembered for how he died. He would be remembered for how he lived, and what his death would finally force this broken system to confront.
You all have to forgive Grayson because he's in there a little angry. I've had to take care of some stuff here, so then I've not had a chance to take them out. I guess he's going to bark throughout the whole damn video. I may have to pause this and take the asses out of there. But the good thing is, Nothing good about this story. Yeah, we have to be very careful with our children in the environments. I know this father is devastated by the loss of his son, especially at coming home from prom night. They just took a picture together. His 17th birthday was just this weekend. And your son has been shot and killed. You don't even know why. I can tell you why: jealousy, envy, anger. The black community, we have to be understanding something about all these shootings. There's a lot of jealousy and envy in the black community.
The crime scene had long been cleared, but the city of Columbus remained stuck in the same dark hour. As Daryus Bryant was laid to rest, the Columbus Police Department quietly expanded its investigation. Detectives combed the area around Lakeshore and Crystal Drive. They reviewed neighborhood surveillance footage frame by frame. They reached out to witnesses. Some spoke, others didn't. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation joined the effort. So did deputies from Talbot County, where Daryus was from. No stone was left untouched, but answers remained out of reach. The vehicle, believed to have opened fire, was gone before anyone could react. No arrest, no confession, no justice, only rumors and silence. The streets whispered names, but no one dared say them aloud. Parents told their children to stay off Instagram, to keep their heads down, to be careful what they posted. Fear had grown legs and started walking through the community like it belonged there. Detectives told the public they needed help. They believed someone knew something. They offered contact numbers, anonymous tip lines, anything to get someone to break the wall of silence. But weeks passed, and the case remained open. Cold air where a warm answer should have lived. Daryus's father refused to sit back. He went public again. This time his voice was sharper, clearer. His eyes didn't blink. 20,000, he said. I'll pay it. I'll pay it out. Of my own pocket. If that's what it takes to find who did this to my boy, then so be it. He wasn't bluffing. The money was real. The grief was realer. And his desperation was starting to look like what it truly was, an act of war against a system moving too slow for a father's breaking heart. But he didn't stop there. In memory of his son, Tasman launched the D2 Foundation. Daryus's name doubled in meaning. The foundation's mission was more than justice. It was prevention, mentorship, scholarships, speaking to students before someone had to speak at their funeral. The first campaign started locally, targeting young athletes. The next would go statewide. If I can't bring him back, his father said, I can still make sure his name saves someone else. While the search for Daryus's killer continued, the story started to reveal a pattern too painful to ignore. Just 4 months before Daryus was killed, another young man from Manchester, Brandon Smith, was shot dead shortly after his graduation party. He too was a rising athlete. He too had a future, and like Daryus, he never got the chance to live it.
Street game, and
Parents
almost
started
didn't even go to the
connecting
prom.
behind the scenes. Grieving mothers and
You have
fathers
black
found
children,
each other
and,
online.
y'all, you just have to
Stories
understand
sounded
that our
the
environment
same.
is actually-
Teens who weren't in the streets, who stayed home, who followed the rules, and still got buried before their 18th birthday. It wasn't just a tragedy. It was a trend, and it was growing. Reporters noted that Columbus had one of the highest youth gun violence rates in Georgia. In 2023 alone, the city logged more than 630 violent crimes per 100,000 residents, over 70% above the national average. Daryus was just one of many, but his name hit different. His face was too clean, his record too spotless, his death too hard to justify. He became a symbol, not just of loss, but of the future being stolen in real time. Still, the case remained unsolved. The reward remained on the table, and the silence from the shooter, whoever they were, hung heavier by the day. For a family waiting for a knock on the door, justice wasn't just overdue, it was personal. And for the community that raised him, the question was no longer just who did it. It was, when will this stop? The church was full before the doors even opened. Leverett Hill Baptist stood surrounded by cars, some parked. On the grass, others down the street. Inside, the pews were packed with classmates, cousins, teachers, and coaches. The air was thick with silence. It was April 27th, 2024, Daryus Bryant's 17th birthday. He should have been opening gifts. Instead, his name was printed on a funeral program in bold lettering, blue and white. The colors of the Manchester Blue Devils lined the sanctuary. Some wore his jersey number, others clutched photographs. His teammates came as a unit, standing shoulder to shoulder, heads bowed, hands trembling. His track spikes were placed at the front near the casket. One of his old footballs rested beneath them. The chaplain tried to speak, but his voice cracked early. He called Daryus the kind of boy every father prays for. One teacher called him a quiet leader. Another said he didn't talk a lot, but when he walked into a room, people noticed. One of Daryus's closest friends stood to speak but couldn't finish. He only said, "This feels like a stab in the chest." And then he cried. But through the tears, there was also a deep, unshakable pride. Daryus had meant something. He had mattered. And even in death, he was still lifting others. That's what the community held on to, that maybe somehow this pain could be turned into purpose. Then Cartersman Bryant stepped to the front. He didn't wear sunglasses. He didn't try to hide his grief. He stood before hundreds of people, holding a folded photo of his son, dressed in his prom suit. "This was a good boy," he said. "He took care of his mother. He worked hard. He stayed out of trouble. He did everything right, and someone took him." He paused, not to gather strength, but to make sure they heard him. "You didn't just take a son," he said. "You took a future. You hurt a team, a town. You left a wound in my family that will never close." And then he did something no one expected. He prayed for the shooter. "I pray for the boy who did this. I pray that you find your way out of whatever darkness made you think this was okay. And I pray, God help me, I pray that your mother never has to feel what I'm feeling now." There wasn't a dry eye left in the building. He looked directly into the cameras at the back of the church. "We're coming for you," he said. "We're going to find you. We're not doing this in anger. We're doing this in love. Because love doesn't let killers walk free. Love demands justice." As the service ended, people filed out in silence. Some wept openly. Others placed roses at the church gate, where a banner had been stretched between two poles. DB2 forever. Outside, the wind was still, and for a moment it felt like the whole town was holding its breath. The DB2 Foundation, Daryus's name, doubled in legacy, was already moving. Speaking engagements, youth programs, scholarships. His father swore this would not stop with a headstone. "Daryus will keep rising," he said, "even if he had to die to do it. The police still ask for tips. The $20,000 reward still stands. Somewhere, someone knows the truth. And every day that passes, Daryus's face is a reminder that silence helps no one. If you know something, speak. If you feel something, act. If you remember him, let it change something, because Daryus Bryant should still be here. And even though his story ends in tragedy, his legacy doesn't end at all."
The day and age of raising a child in these black communities and them safely getting out of these schools with an education and graduating that's a difficult road to do. So my suggestion would be to move your child someplace safe if you can. You gotta go to the suburbs, somewhere away from these heathens. These kids are crazy today. The violence, the guns, it just don't make no damn sense. This boy lost his life for what reason? What reason did they shoot and kill this 16-year-old kid? There is no reason. Jealousy, envy, hate. This man minded his business. Like he said, the father just said they was shooting videos at a gas station, laughing, having fun. And some hateful ass niggas saw that shit and decided, I'm gonna get them niggas. Just see this all. These teenagers don't realize that they throwing their lives away, murdering somebody, and when they get caught and they gonna catch these niggas, they're gonna be put in jail for a long time. My nephew, he's in prison now.
If this story moved you, don't scroll past. Comment Justice for Daryus if you believe his name should never be forgotten. Subscribe for more true stories that demand to be told. And if you know anything that could help, speak up. Because someone out there knows the truth, and we won't stop until it's heard.